that this kind of went down, but it was definitely a huge sticking point when Regina was on that stand.
I mean, we knew that Regina was going to take the stand as a form of corroborating Cassie Ventura's testimony. Cassandra Ventura basically testified that she was a victim of Sean Combs' sex trafficking, that she was coerced into these sexual episodes, that she was beaten, that she was threatened. And to have Regina take the stand, we knew she was going to be a form of corroborating testimony. I didn't expect this, the alleged $20,000 payment. The reason I say so much about corroborating testimony is I also understand there was a discussion regarding her taking photos of injuries of her daughter or something of that fashion. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the injuries to Cassie?
I can only imagine how hard it was for Regina to testify about this, because in this we're seeing exhibit photos of Cassie around this time with bruises on her body, something that she had testified to while she was under direct examination and even cross-examination as well too. But as far as Regina specifically goes, we were shown exhibits, photos again around this time frame, that being in 2011, and they showed Cassie kind of posed up. These photos were taken by Regina herself. Cassie had her head shaved at this point, and Regina made it a point to kind of point out to everyone that Cassie had her head shaved from around 2009 to about 2011. And again, these photos were taken around the 2011 time frame. But in that time frame, this was really the first time Cassie had even spoken to her mother about the physical violence that she endured at the hands of her then boyfriend, that then boyfriend obviously being Sean Combs, aka Diddy. And so Regina also brought up just a blind item that she had previously seen on the internet. A blind item is something that, you know, in my personal time I do kind of like to look at, and essentially it's just kind of like gossip about celebrities, but they don't necessarily use the names, and it's just ways to kind of get in gossip that sometimes can be true, sometimes it's a little fabricated, a little over the top. But in this specific case, Regina recalled seeing just a blind item about Cassie getting beaten in a car by Diddy, and then privately an exhibit photo was shown of somebody named Mia, somebody that who previously had worked for Diddy. This was shown privately, so we in the gallery, and I don't even believe that the jurors even saw this photo. But as far as just the photos that we did see today in court, it was just more of those bruised photos, more of the photos that Cassie again had bruises on her body. She was posing for her mom, and her mom kind of kept these photos, I guess kind of as a way for instances, possibly kind of like this one, where just if something were to happen, they have these photos to kind of corroborate Cassie's stories. But some of were different photos that we had seen earlier in the days of testimony, and then some of them were newer photos as well too. But I think they kind of really hit home with the jury there, just about everything that Regina saw her daughter go through during this time.
And I will tell you, I think the prosecution has done quite an exceptional job at proving there was physical violence against Cassandra Ventura. I mean, even the defense seemed to concede that there was domestic violence, but you couple the photographs, the testimony, both of Cassandra Ventura and supporting witnesses, the 2016 tape, definitely, I think the jury can make the assumption or go to the conclusion that she was physically abused. It does become a question, is that sex trafficking? Is that racketeering? That's a separate legal question. Now, did she also testify about a phone incident? If so, what's that about?
So I have a credit score of 480, and I had no idea the banks
Yeah, so the phone incident just happened about 5 years later from the 2011 incident, so that means 11 plus 5, 2016. And so around this time was Cassie's
At the next light, turn right.
Had traveled from Connecticut to Los Angeles at the time where Cassie was living on the West Coast to essentially celebrate her daughter's birthday. And so, but what ended up happening was that Regina actually called the police. Why did she call the police? Because Diddy had taken Cassie's phone. Regina got upset about this whole incident, so she just immediately called the police after Cassie had told her about what happened. So what ended up happening on Regina's end is she got into an argument with Diddy outside of Cassie's apartment building. We saw an exhibit photo of Cassie's apartment building at the time where she lived on the 17th story, and she said during this argument with
At the light, turn right onto US 27 South.
And that's what Regina had referred to him as, his government name, that being Damian Butler, as opposed to D-Rock, the name that a lot of people have used while they've been testifying throughout this trial. And during this, D-Rock was kind of being the middleman in all of this,
Red light camera ahead.
De-escalate the situation, or at least at the bare minimum, just trying to protect Diddy against from the wrath of Regina.
In 1 mile, keep right onto US 92 East toward Haines City.
Diddy was holding Cassie's phone. D-Rock was in the middle of it, trying to kind of break up everything, and that Regina was admitting that she was trying to hit Diddy during this because that's how essentially furious that she was. And so what ended up happening is that Diddy later gave Regina Cassie's phone back, but then what he ended up doing was taking Cassie's car instead. And so I think this kind of played into the prosecution's argument that, you know, if something were to happen, that Diddy would take things away from Cassie, such as her phone in one instance, such as her car in another instance. And so Regina said essentially that they ended up still celebrating Cassie's birthday around this time frame, but the thing is that Diddy wasn't there, so there was no Diddy at this birthday celebration or anything like that, especially after kind of the events that occurred. And even just looking at this time frame, this August 2016 was just a few months after the hotel incident that happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. And so I think what the prosecution was doing was, again, trying to kind of drive home the point that if something were to happen, if Diddy
Keep right onto US 92 East toward Haines City.
Cassie,